Welcome, my friend. In this video, we will be building the backend from scratch using pure Node.js before we start to use framework like Express. So you can really appreciate how the framework make our life easier by abstracting everything away. So without further ado, let's get started. So first we need to create a folder for our project. So I'll be naming it Career Tracker Service. You can name yours backend or API, whichever does for you, but I prefer naming mine a service. So we create the folder and we cd into the folder service. Yeah, and let's open in VS Code. Voila. Okay, let's close this. I think the zoom is okay. We can just zoom a little bit. Yeah, I think it's okay now. Yeah, this is okay. Okay, first step is to check if we have Node.js installed on our system. And to do that, you do node dash v. You can check the version. Mine, I'm using version 24. But if you don't have Node installed, you can just go to nodejs.org. Let me just bring it up one moment. And you can install via this page. Just copy to your clipboard and paste to the terminal and you install. I really suggest you install via the MVM because along the way in future video we are going to talk a little bit about it, and there are other ways to install, but I highly suggest you install via the NVM. If you have any issue, you can always check online, check other videos on how to resolve it. Okay, let's get back to coding. Okay, now that we are sure we have Node.js installed, the next thing is to initialize our project. And to do that, we just run npm init. Just do dash y to say yes to everything, and so we can have a overlook of the file, the package.json file it's going to generate. So let me clear this. So let's open our package.json. So the package.json file is the heart of any Node.js project, either the front end or the back end. It's the heart of any project, of any Node.js project. So it records important metadata like information about the project, what dependencies we are going to use, the script. It's like the entry point to all our packages. So just a brief overview. So we have the name of our project, the version, the description, although we can make the description a little bit better. So maybe we just improve the description. Let me just bring it here. And we say, yeah, so backend service for resume creation and job application tracking. I think that sounds better. And for the main, so main is the main entry point to the program. So you can use yours as index.js, but me, I like to use server.js. You can also use app.js, depends on your preference. So the script is used to run internal script like testing, like running the server and so on. Keywords we can leave. Author, you can just add your name or the license. You can use ISC, but I usually use MIT. And yeah, so that's it about the package.json. Next, we need to create our server, the main entry point, which is the server.js. Now, to create our API, before talking about the API, I just want you to know that Node.js, we can run normal JavaScript. For example, you can console log hello world, and to run this, you just do node and the name of the file, which is server. You see, we can run just normal JavaScript hello world. So that being said, let's just get into creating our API. Now to create our API, we have a module, the HTTP module from Node, and we can import it, import HTTP from HTTP. And to create the server, we can get the create server method from the HTTP. So to create the server, so the server is HTTP. So we get the create server method, which takes in a callback function, which takes request, response, and this. So for now we can just print to the send a simple hello world to the client, and so we use using rest.write, and also we can just, and we have to end each time. So we send to the client using write, and we end this time. And we need to run our server. This is just creating the server, but then we need to run the server. So the way to do that is just by doing server.listen, and we have to specify the port we want to run. So usually I think my 3000 is occupied, so we can do 8080, hold on, 8080 or 8000, whichever port you like. And we have a callback function where we can just console.log server is running on ports 8080. And to run this, you just have to do node server again. So each time you have to run. Oh, we have an error. One moment. Cannot use imp. Okay. So here's where the error is coming from. So because we are using the type of common JS, we can only import using const http require http. Although you can use this, but I really prefer using my import. So we can just change that from the package.json, from type, from CommonJS, we can change it to module. So now everything is good. Let's clear the terminal and run node server again. So the server is currently running on port 8080, and we can confirm on the client. So localhost. So my 3000 is currently occupied, so we just do 8080. And yes, we have it. Hello world is printed to the client. So let's go further and inspect the network tab, and if we check from the network tab, the response header, which gives us context about the response we sent, we can see we don't have the type and other stuff. It's because we haven't set the header yet. So we have to go back to the code. So now it's very good to set a header. Response.set header, or let's just write it to also set the status code also. And because we are sending a plain text, we set the content type as text plain. If for example, so let's save, and so we have to kill the server and run again. Okay, so I think it's wasting too much time, so I think this is the best time to set up the server to watch consecutively. So the best thing for us now is to go to the package.json. You can remove this text, and let's add a start and dev script. No, we are not using nodemon, we're using node watch server.js. And I think this is the best time to also set the env, because in the port we are specifically saying we want 8080. So let's say we want to change our environment from dev to like production mode, it's best to just save it in as in an env file. So now let's just create our .env, and let's set the port to 80. Let's just use 8000. I think 8000 is better. And let's go back to our server.js const port. So it's between the 8000 we set, or 8080 if it doesn't read properly. And we set this to to port, and we change this to this. Nice. Okay. And also in the package.json, we also need to update the script, because we are watching the server, and we also want it to check the env file. we have to specify the paths, and yes, so everything is good to go. So let me kill the server again and run. So now instead of running node server, we just run npm run dev. Nice. Okay, so now the server is listening to the port and it's watching it. For every file we save, we don't have to kill the server and restart. So now it's all good. So let's go back to the server.js we save. Okay, so now we set the content type to text plain. If we go back to the client, we refresh. What's the error? Provisional header. Oh, okay. Sorry, we are not more on 8080, so we go back to 8000. Yes, good. And we have hello world, and we check the local host. We can see we are now have the content type as text plain. So for example, also if we were to send raw HTML, let's say for example we want to have an h1 tag, and let's put the hello world inside. So we can't send this as text plain because it's just going to render this h1 alongside. We can confirm from the client. If we refresh now, you can see we just render the h1 as a plain text. So the best thing is to send it as HTML. So if we save and we go back to the client, if we refresh now, you can see we render as h1, and you can confirm from the network tab. We can see the content type is HTML. So that's just to show you that we have different content types, and also from the status 200 meaning it's successful. So I will explain more about the status and the content type along the way, and also I'll provide a cheat sheet in the description of the video where you can understand more about it. Now I would like us to start implementing our API, and usually we work mostly with JSON data. So let's start with getting resumes. So because we would like to create different resumes, and so let's just create different const resumes equals it should be an array of different resumes. So we will say ID of one, name John Doe, let's say email should be johndoe@example.com, and let's just take years of experience. 5. You know what, let's just use AI to generate some resumes for us. I think it's faster that way. Okay, ChatGPT coming to the rescue. Voila. Okay, now we have the resumes we want to send to the client. So the client makes a get request to get all available resumes, and the way to do that is, so we're in the server, and now, so usually we don't need to specify res.write, res.end. We can just do everything in the res.end. So we can get rid of these, and we send to the server json.stringify resumes. And like I said, we need to always specify the content type so the response can have the corresponding headers that are very, very particular to the data we are sending. So now we are not sending text.html, we are sending application JSON. So now that we have all resumes, we can test on the client. So let's go back to the client, and if we refresh, yep, we should get our data. So usually it's the type of data we would want for the front end to lay out the applications or the resumes. So yeah, and if we check from the network tab, we can see the content type is application JSON. So now let's continue. So from now, I think we should get rid of using the client, and we should just use Postman. So I would really highly suggest you install Postman if you don't have it. you can install as an extension. You can just search for Postman, and yeah, so mine is already installed. You can just install and set it up. It's very quite straightforward. So from now we will use Postman. So let me bring up my Postman and take a new HTTP request. Okay, nice. So let's go back to the server. Now we've created the getting all the applications, getting all the resumes, sorry. Now, if we want to get for individual resumes, or for example, if we want to get for jobs, so let's just go back to resume. We send, we can see we get the ID, but also if we put something wrong, so let's say jobs, for example, we still get the same resume. And why is this happening? Let me zoom this down a bit. And why are we getting the same results depending on the params we set? If you look at the routes, we put jobs, we also put resumes, and we still get the same result. It's because the server is just explicitly sending this. So we need to do like a if statement to check the request. So if the request is coming from applications, we send this. If the request is coming from jobs, we send this. If it's not coming from any route in our API, then we send a not found message. But let's just get to writing the code. So to get this done, the best way to do is first do a try and catch block. So in case there's an error on the server, we can just send a server error. So now we do a try. So first we check if the request is slash resume and it's a get request, then we show this, meaning it's successful. Yep. And now else we show a not found. So and not found, for the status it's usually 404. So not found, and we do res.end not found, same thing. So if it's slash resumes, we get all the resume, and if it's not slash resume, because the other APIs are not ready, so we need to show it's not found. So we can test this on the oh wait, before we test, I think there is an error, so failed to. I think it's best to just use nodemon, because with node-watch I don't know, there are usually some issues with it. So let's go back to the package.json. Okay, let's just use nodemon. I think it's better. So now, so usually I use yarn for most of my projects, so I think it's best to just use yarn, because in next videos I will use yarn. So yarn add nodemon, and it's a dev dependency. Okay, so it's installing. Yeah, it's created. It's clear. Oh, I think it's way much better. And you can see from the install, we generate a node module which has, because we are working on a dependency which is nodemon, and that nodemon adds, or it has other dependencies which has other dependency, and everything is a node module. And it also generates a yarn.log file, which is like the dependency tree, which has the exact version of the dependencies to install and the version of the dependencies to be installed, like that. So it's an auto-generated file, so you don't need to touch that. So go back to your package.json and we update this one to nodemon, and yeah, it's better. This, I think nodemon, it's way much better for us. So let's kill the server again. Let's clear and let's run. So now we're using yarn, so let's just run yarn dev. Okay, so now our server is running. Yeah, it's better now because it updates better than nodewatch. Okay, now the server is running. We want to test if we add other routes we get not found. So normally with resume we get this, but if we put, for example, jobs, we should get a not found message. Yeah, voila, so we have the not found. So now let's implement other API. So we've gotten for the get request for all the resume. If we want to get for particular resume, for example, just like the first one. So now we have to do another if statement. So that's the issue of not using um, framework, because with Express it's much more easier. So else if request.url dot match with resume, and it is get request. So what I'm trying to say here is, so we are using like a regex. So if the request match resumes slash the ID and the request is get, then we can pass the ID, const ID, we can pass the ID. So we split it and we get the ID, and next we can search for the resume. So we find the resume, and if the resume is available, then we can write our head, it is successful, and we send it to the client, this resume. However, else if it's not successful, then we show a not found. I think we just stick to using not found. We show a not found message. So I just go through it again. So we check using regular expression. If it's match resume slash ID and it's a get request, we get the ID. Normally from Express, we can just get the ID using from the ID directly, but here we can. So we have to pass the request URL, then find the resume, and we can write it to the head and send to the client. So we can test this from the Postman. So let's go back to resumes. So let's say /1, for example. Now you can see we get John Doe. We can try /2, and yeah, we get them. So let's say we do /2000. We don't have that. We should get a not found. Exactly. So we have a not found. So that's you get request for an individual resume. Okay, next we should do a, okay, this is getting a bit clogged, so I think it's best to extract this so it's more clearer. So let's extract it to a function. So cost get resumes equals, so we get the request, the response, and as a function we can just copy this one. You can just copy this one here, and we send get resume request response. I'm just trying to clean up what's here. Oh, so because I'm working in a kind of TypeScript environment, I set it in my VS Code to run these errors. Let's just, I will add, you might not need to do this, but for me I need to, because I already set it to my VS Code. I am really a TypeScript guy. So TS no check. Oh, sorry, I need to add an ads. Okay, so it should work. Nice. Okay, so that's for get resumes, and for this one we say const get resume by ID, get resume by ID equals request response, and it's a function, and we can copy all this guy right here, and voila. Also, I noticed we are using not found. Maybe we can just create a function for it so it's more clearer. So get resumes by ID. So const not found equals request response, and okay. Oh, pardon. Let's get the not found. Yes, and we can just put a not found here. And also I think we can do the same here, not found. Yes, I think it's cleaner this way. Yeah, it's better this way. Okay, so yeah, this one will be get resume by ID. So now we've done for get requests, getting the resumes and getting individual resume. If now we want to do a post to create a resume, so we have 5 now. So let's say we want to create one more resume, and what we need to do is the same way. So now we're checking for get. Now we have to do for else if and come down, we do another else if. Okay, request dot, because we can get the URL from the request, equals to resume slash resumes, and the method is post. Then now this one needs so let's just define it here. Get sorry, create resume response request. So the function is not yet ready, so I think it's best to just create it here so we can abstract it earlier. So const create resume. So now this can actually be a little bit tricky because Node doesn't give us the full body at once, just like the way Express does. But what the way we can go around it is, first we need to initialize the body, because since we can't get the body, we need to initialize the body. Then we check on the request on the data being sent, and we listen for the incoming messages as chunk, then which is going to give us a callback function. Yep. And for each chunk we are going to append it to the body, but we are going to convert to a string because chunk is usually a buffer, so we need to convert to string to become a text. So once we get that appended to the body, and once all the data has been received, then we can do a request on end, so when everything is complete. And also we have a callback request, then on end we can now, by this time we have access to the body, and we can now pass the body. So now we have const, so new resume, because we're creating a new resume, we can now pass the body. So we need to get the give the new resume an ID. So yep, we can just accept that. So once we get the give new ID, we push to the resumes, and we can write the head. And if you look at the status code, it's 201, which means successful update. So 201 means it's sorry, successful creation. So we successfully created, it's 201. Then after, we can send to the client as a JSON. Now let's test this on our postman. So if we go to the postman, so now we are working with post request. So we change this to post, and we are the resume. So we need to define the body in the body. So the request, so we need to specify the body. So let's define a raw. To make this faster, let me just copy and paste this. So we just send in the JSON. Okay, so I don't know, let me just let me reduce this one so we can see this one better. Okay, so I'm just sending a new body named John Wick, Mr. Wick, and years of experience 23. So let's test it out, and we send. Oh yep, so and we can check the header first. We can see application.json, and it's successfully created because we also set the status code. And if we check the body, it's already saved, and it gave it an ID of 6. So our update is very successful. Now we can move on to the next. So we've done create, we've done read, which is the get request. Next we need to try and update, because we want to do full CRUD app. So for updates, before moving to update, I think it's best for us to separate this if statement into get, post, read. So I think we just need to rewrite this a little bit. So we will say if request.method equals to get, yep, we take this guy's resume, yep, and we don't need this one anymore. Yes, I think it's better that way. And we need else not found, definitely. Okay, nice. And else if it's post, so if request.url goes to resumes, yep. So let's get rid of this guy. Else not found. Okay, nice. Next, we've done get, we've done post. Now let's move on to update. So else if request.method equals to put. So for the update, it's put. And now when we want to update a resume, it's going to be just one particular resume. So definitely we have to match just the same way we did previously. So now let me just copy and paste so it's faster. So now we have to match the request URL, get the ID, and confirm to update a single resume. So now we're just going to do update resume, get the request and the response, and at the top we can just come right below here, const update resume equals request response. Okay, oh sorry, yep. Okay, so now that we want to update the resume, we are going to follow the same one, just like get resume by ID, but this time instead of getting, we are updating. So to do that, first we need to pass the the ID from the URL. So const ID equals to, so we're going to pass as an integer, and it's going to be request.url.split, and so we are going to split by the slash, and we take the second parameter. Okay, now we have the ID. We need to get the index of the resume in the large resume, so it will be resume dot find index, and so we can get the, for each resume we check if the resume dot id equals to the id. And so once we get the resume index, now once we do find index, it either returns the actual index or it returns -1 if it's not available. So we need to capture that, and if the resume index equals to -1, so we need to capture in case we don't have it in the resume, so we just show a not found, request response. Okay, and we return. Okay, now we need to, So after we've gotten the index, the next thing is we need to get the body because we're updating the resume with a new data. So just like before, we can get the body because of node. Now we have to let body and we have to do the request on the data as chunks. And we get the body, append it to the body chunk dot, and we have to convert to string because chunk is a buffer. So once the request dot on is there, now at the end of getting the chunks, so it will be on end. Or when we start working with Express, you will see how easy it is to get the body and doing other stuff. So at the end of getting the chunks, now we can update the resume. So first, const updated resume equals, so we have to pass the body. It's very important. Why do I keep spelling pass wrongly? Okay, body. And next, one important thing to do is to still set the same ID because we are updating, not overriding. So we are just updating the data. So we need to make the ID consistent and not do the increment of the ID like we did previously. So we need to make sure the ID is the same. So let me just put ensure the ID remains the same. Next, so what we need to do is just to update the resume. So with the resume index, and we set it to the updated resume. So once that is done, we can do res dot write head. So we can, it's going to be a 200 because it's a successful update, and we can do our normal content type application.json, application slash JSON, and res dot end JSON dot stringify, and we send the updated resume. Now, one thing I need to tell you about the status code is we use 200 because we are sending a data back to the client. But if, for example, we are not sending any data back, it's going to be no no content. So once we have no content, it is usually 204. If it is successful but there is no content, it's 204. But this is successful and there is a content, it's 200. So now I think it's good, so we can test. So let's go to the localhost resume. So let's say we want to update the second resume, and we go to the raw. Okay, let's just change something there. Let's say 50 years of experience. Let's say Jane Week and Mrs. Week. And if we, so it's going to be a put request, not a post. Put, and yeah, let's send. I think there is an error somewhere. Okay, I think we need to really debug the issues. What can be wrong? Okay, let me calm down. Update resume. Okay. Okay, it's supposed to be resumes. Okay, this is really why I love using TypeScript. So in the next videos, we are going to integrate the environment to use fully TypeScript so we can catch this error early. Okay, let's check request on chunk to you can see another one to string, not string. God, I missed TypeScript. Okay, next, oh yeah, I think AI just gave us one. This should be resumes also. we content content. Okay. Let's try this. I think those are where the error coming from. So let's try it again. Save. Oh, fingers crossed this time. Chain week. We, we. Let's go. Okay. Okay. So it worked. Okay. In the later videos, we are going to really work in a TypeScript environment because of, yeah, this is the best practice. Okay, so now we've done update resume. So like I said, we are going to return a content to the client. So and return what we updated, and we only update the ID. We only update the data and the ID. We give the same ID. Okay, so next we've done create, read, update, and let's just do delete so we can wrap this video up. So we've done put, and let's do another else if. Request dot method equals to delete. Okay, using AI sometimes. Request dot method equals to delete, and we have to do if request dot, we also have to match it because we can only delete one at a time, and we just say delete resume, and yeah. So let's go up and define our function const delete resume. So now, just like before, we get the ID, we split, we find the index, and if the index is -1, because if it's not available, it will return -1, and we sent a not found. And after that, we are going to use the splice function. So from the resume, we are going to remove the element from the array, and one is just to signify that we just want to remove one item at a time. So splice, we can see remove an array from an element from an array. So start, which is the number at the index, and the delete count, which is the number of items you want to delete at a time. Then after, we can just do res dot write head 204. 204 because we are not doing any content, we are not sending any content, so we can just leave it that way and end. Yeah, so I just want to go fast so we can wrap up this video. So yeah, so we've done create, read, update, delete. One thing I just want to go talk about before we move on to using Express is middlewares. Okay, now what are middlewares exactly? Before I just give an example, I would like just to explain a little bit what middlewares are. So they are like modules or function. So they have access to the request and the response object, and they sit in the middle of the incoming request and the outgoing response. So you can modify, intercept, or undo the request or responses. Enough talking, let me just give example. So for example, if we notice we are always defining content type application JSON, and overall for APIs, usually it's usually mostly the content type is usually application JSON. So one thing we can do is to create a middleware to append the content type to the response, so we don't have to always specify the content type application JSON. So one thing we can do is to create a middleware, and for middleware, so let's call this one JSON header middleware. So middleware usually take the request, the response, and next. So and for this one, we just want to set the header. So after setting the header, it is very important to next. So next is the next function to call, the next middleware. So we can put middleware inside middleware, and yeah, so we will see. So now to use this middleware, we have to go So like I said, request, response, next. So request is what we want to set the header and we go next. So yeah, so what we want to do is to wrap all our logic into the middleware, and to do that we just, so in fact let me just cut everything. So just do JSON middleware. So like I said, it take request, response, and the next. So the next is just a callback function, and we paste everything in it. So now we don't have to specify the content type application JSON. So I think we can just delete all that to make the code more dry. I would show the final result after. So all we need to do is just to set the status code, res.status code equals to 200. Also we can do the same here, and where else, okay, this one we can also set it here, 201. And where else, okay, this one 200 also, and this one you can just set it to 204, and this one 244. I think that's it. Okay, and oh, one more thing. So for the error, so in case we have a server error, we can just set the status code to 500, which is actually for server error, and we send a message to the client that we have internal server error. So everything looks good. We can test it. So let's just do the normal get request, and okay, send. We get all our data, and if we look at the header, we still have our application, the application JSON. This is because we already set a middleware to set the header every time. Let's say you have an like authentication and you want to use the middleware to confirm if the user is allowed to go to this route or not, so you can use the authentication middleware. We could also have a logger. Let's say we want to log the request and the response. We can have a logger middleware. So like I said, it take the request, response, and next, and we have a function, and we can just console log the method, the URL, and next. So the same thing, we can just cut everything. We have to wrap everything to the logger middleware. Sometimes the arrangement of the middleware matters, sometimes it doesn't, but in this case it doesn't really matter. But so we just put everything inside the logger middleware. So we have the logger middleware, the JSON header middleware, and if we test, if we go, let's send again, you see we log get request and resume. And yeah, so I think that's it for this video. Next video we are going to look at how Express simplify the process, and see you on the next.